Yeah, hello, all out in. I guess I could probably put that up on my camera right there. Hello, all in Facebook land. So joining us today, right now, is Roger Lee, and Roger, you are executive director. What is your official title?
A few years back, it changed to CEO, but I think it's really just the chief cook and bottle washer at the moment. So, or maybe a handle washer.
Right, of economic development for Central Oregon. So. Within your capacity, what do you normally do, Roger?
That's a great question. I get that answer, asked every once in a while. And, more and more, it used to be working with businesses, but more and more it's the, kind of running of the organization and making sure our team is supported and they're actually doing most of the work these days. So, but it's certainly, people look at like, hey, what's going on with the economy and why haven't, is it growing or is it not growing? And if not, why? What are you doing?
Right.
Do you get to say now? I don't know.
Never. You'd be like, oh, it's time to get a new one of those guys.
So we wanted to bring you on, and we're going to have Tom Schnell from Business Oregon here joining us shortly. But we wanted to bring you on just because, obviously, in this changing dynamics, business is really sort of trying to figure stuff out. And I know you probably don't have sage advice right now because for you it's probably changing moment by moment. But what would you say to, those small businesses, those medium-sized businesses, whatever that looks like right now? Obviously, this is a different time, but, can you give us what you're hearing through the grapevine, I guess?
Well, obviously, in business, you got to protect your cash. I mean, cash is king, and that's a super important, strategy right now. So you see a lot of companies trying to size their operations to their customer base, which is, rapidly shrinking. So, trying to right size that, you've got to keep the, financial feet under you to remain a business. Mm-hmm. And so, I give you some breathing room, but it's always difficult time to work on your business when things are, in crisis mode like they are now.
Right.
At the same time, I think we're really encouraging businesses to, take a look at all the things, use the resources around them that are available, many of which are free, to, hey, let's talk about these hard things like, hey, this is what's happened to my customer base. It just like evaporated overnight, or now it's, 20% of what it was. How do I grapple with that from an operational and financial perspective?
Right. This is obviously we talk about this is sort of when Afton and I are doing this podcast, we're talking about creative, and so obviously I think there's nothing but creativity for businesses right now because we either have to get creative on what we're doing because some businesses literally, their restaurants are takeout creative solutions. What have you seen from the creative end on those creative solutions that businesses are coming up with? Have you heard of some interesting ideas throughout the state?
Well, it's pretty early. What are we, 24 hours or 36 hours into the restaurant closure? It's interesting because what we're dealing with here is not necessarily unique in the whole world. It's not like there's a local pandemic that, or virus outbreak that we can't learn from other places. But if you look at, in Europe, for example, Italy, I happen to have relatives that are living there. Mm-hmm. They've been dealing with something, much different strategy. Like me coming here, I'd go through a couple roadblocks mm-hmm. and have to have my permission slip to come visit you guys.
Right.
So it's much different there, and trying to figure out how some of those businesses operate. It's a different culture, it's a different demographic and so forth, but. We have these tools available to us that many business owners, I would say myself as an individual included, have not utilized as much to connect with customers that you're going to have to get up to speed really quick to figure out how to still connect with those folks. Mm-hmm. Because unless we just all stop buying everything, except for food and toilet paper.
And toilet paper and toilet paper and toilet paper and toilet paper and yeah.
Yeah, I'm hoping when all that runs out, we'll be one of the people that actually goes and gets a bundle,
Yeah.
We haven't stocked up yet, so.
Nope, neither have I.
Hopefully
you're not alone.
Yeah, we won't run out.
If anybody's listening and generous, maybe you can bring us some toilet paper.
We'll be paid in toilet paper. I like that idea.
We will gladly give a shout out to your business.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
The one thing that, like for me, you were saying, take this chance to kind of reevaluate your business and use the resources that are out there. But I almost feel like, for like the anxiety of everything is starting to calm down a little bit. And this is just like, okay, this is real. This is what's happening. What can we do? Do you think that other businesses kind of have the similar feeling where it might take them a few more days to really relax and say, all right, now that I've thought about these things, I need to start implementing them.
Yeah, I mean, we're kind of an uncharted territory. It's not like you can say the point and say, well, here's what we did the last time.
Yeah.
You can't really look at a recession because those things kind of tend to ease in, to things, and like, well, things have changed radically in 6 months, but not in 6 hours or 6 days. So I think we deal with a spectrum of business owners that are everywhere from a sponge for taking in information and trying to implement and execute on that, to a diamond where nothing penetrates, and
Right.
I'm just gonna they're just gonna do what they're gonna do, and right or wrong, they'll fail or thrive on their own. So I think there's a whole spectrum of businesses that will are willing to look at their business and figure out what to do, and have they really evaluated some of their financial methods in place? What has been the outreach with their vendors or their supply chain or their customers about payments, and can I pay a little bit later on my accounts payable, and can I get money a little bit earlier on my accounts receivable? Those are kind of things that delta will really could really make or break a business. So I don't think of creativity oftentimes coming together with people thinking financially about their business, but at the end of the day, there's very much a financial entity to them, or aspect to them that a lot of folks, because maybe it's not quite as fun or as sexy, ignore, or say, I'll deal with that later, or it's good enough because I'm making money. In a situation like this, some of all that stuff gets disrupted, and it's like, okay, now I got to work on this.
It's the financial aspect is always, like, for me personally in my company, been the scariest, and for a long time I kind of put that on the back burner. But there are so many resources here in Central Oregon that even I started tapping into in the last since BVC, really 6 months or so. And it is scary. It's very scary. And to get creative with financials is probably, like you said, the last resort that you would ever think about. But for us, we've been implementing kind of what you're saying. Like, look at everything. Look at what you're putting out. Look at what's supposed to be coming in, and saying, how can I shuffle this to make it work? The strategy, and Matt and I talked about this yesterday too, for us is to really just make sure that our employees are taken care of. Because what are they going to do? We're at the top, but they've gone as far as they can go. Like, what other resources are out there for them? And right or wrong, I don't know, but it seems creative in the moment.
Well, I could say, from experience, and we've had less experience, you've had experience with more of our team members, with Brian Vieira's Venture Catalyst and so forth. You've been on that sponge side of taking everything in, implementing, executing, and meeting milestones. So, I mean, it's a great success story of how somebody can form a new business, be successful in the marketplace, and really grow it at a rate that I think most people think you couldn't have done.
Right. It takes being vulnerable, though, and resources like EDCO have been amazing for that. Like, there's no way I would have been able to do it by myself at all.
Which we talked a little bit about yesterday, was the fact that now is not the time to not, as members of EDCO, you guys are helping us through this transition. I mean, I know you guys feel that way about it too. So it's like, we need to come together as a business community and figure out, how we can help each other. So,
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's maybe some of that creativity. It's like, okay, well, if we're now curtailing or doing something different more with our events, we'll save on these expenses with our vendors. Our philosophy is our vendors are our partners. Let's figure out how to take care of them so they're here when things turn around again, and we can help support them financially to the degree we're able. But let's figure out how to do something different. And your organization brings different things that our skill set. So we rely heavily, as a team member who's not a team member, who's a contractor. A vendor for us to make this stuff work, to help us be successful. So I think that describes a lot of our economy today. Who has everything in house? You've got all these other things that are outsourced that, think of those folks too, in this period of time. And so they know they're not alone either.
Right. Well, Tom, from Business Oregon is actually on the line also with us now, and I was going to bring him into the conversation if we could do that, actually.
Awesome, yeah.
Hey, Tom, how are you today?
I'm doing wonderful. How are you all?
We're
good.
We're
We're
good. We are adapting to the day to day at this point in time.
You know, that's Matt. That's a good word to use in these situations. Here is adaptive, and it's, as we know, it's changing rapidly. It's changing hourly, and I think right now flexibility and the ability and willingness to pivot is extremely needed and useful in this time.
Can you talk a little bit, Tom? What from a state standpoint? What is the state? I mean, you sent out a really great, and we'll put a link in the a link to this document in the Facebook after we get off the air here. But what creative solutions are you folks recommending at this point in time?
You know, right now we're just trying to stay attuned to it hour by hour and seeing what the businesses need. One of the things that we're seeing right now is 3 weeks ago, let's say a month ago, we were at full employment. Things were rolling along, and suddenly we're seeing layoffs like we've never seen them before. And so one of the things we're working with is like WorkSource Solutions to find out, how do we get the unemployment checks out there. It's unprecedented too, because people can't come in and file for unemployment now. So they're having to do it online. They're having to do it through the phone. These are extraordinary times that we're in. And fortunately, we have the technology now that can handle some of this. I think the next thing that we're going to be seeing, and we're already having requests on that, is how do I meet my expenses? And it could be through, loan programs. We don't know yet. I reckon it to a car that's plummeting down a hill, and you're calling the body shop asking what the repair costs are going to be.
That's a very creative analogy.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah,
it hits the bottom.
Yeah,
and we're having to address the needs as they come up. The biggest one right now was the unemployment, so we're addressing that. We know that there's going to be funding needs out there. The SBA is on it. We're seeing Congress enacting several legislative concepts that they're trying to get pushed through like we've never seen before. And so a lot of it's going to wait and see. I know the governor is looking at all options too. It's she mentioned that, does she push back some of the taxes? Do we give some of the rebates back? We don't know until some of these actually pass, but I know that everything is on the table right now.
Yeah.
For those of you that don't know, what is your role with Business Oregon, Tom?
Thank you, Afton. What I do is I'm just a business finance officer. I cover the central and north central parts of Oregon. And really what Business Oregon is, we're the economic development agency for the state. And so what we try to do is we work with small businesses primarily on helping them grow. And we really partner with EDCO. And so a lot of the things that EDCO does locally, we do kind of more on a state level. And so EDCO is a huge partner of ours. I cannot say enough of the job that Roger and his entire team, all the directors here, John, Kelsey, Kathy, they all do just a fabulous job. Brian Vieira with the venture side. I think that we've had such a strong economy here because of the years of work that they've put in. I like to refer to them as the 10-year overnight success, meaning I've been with Roger since, not with him, but have worked alongside of him since he moved here from Baker City. I've seen the job that he's done and should be commended for what he has done in the area.
Do you have any comment on that, Roger?
Hey, well, it's a mutual admiration society here. Tom is generating about 50% of the state's business new business leads for loans at the and guarantees that the state offers, both direct loans to businesses as well as working with other financial institutions. So he's a very humble guy, and he likes to deflect any kind of praise, but he's far outboxing his weight here and delivering financial resources to our local businesses.
The check's in the mail for that, Roger.
So, Roger, what would you say right now EDCO's biggest, I guess, as a small business owner, what is the biggest resource you guys are offering right now that you would suggest small businesses reaching out to EDCO for?
Well, it feels like right now, so far the response has been, hey, here's where you can get some money. Here's where you can get some, maybe some financial, aid and so forth. I just know that those processes unless they're changing from what they have in the past, are not super fast.
No.
So you start today, and X number of days, you actually get some relief. And how much work does it take to actually secure that relief? We don't know. I'm not discrediting the organizations that are trying to do that, but so I think we really want to talk to companies like, what can we do now?
And that is changing. So I applied personally, little spillage here, for Broken Top about, I mentioned to you that I just switched to Columbia Bank, and I applied for a line of credit, and I was denied for my business. And Ashley at Columbia and her team are working right now towards an SBA loan for me. But what they're seeing is just so much, like how do you vet it? And is there enough money to go around? Like, those are major concerns that even I'm facing. And it scares me, are my doors going to be able to stay open?
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess that's, anybody would ask, what is the number one resource? Reaching out to EDCO, and then of course due to Business Oregon. I think we're on this together.
Yeah, I do see some financial institutions, though, are offering some kind of emergency products. So I definitely would check those out. That's kind of rolling out on a daily basis as far as who's offering what. So, it's one of these things like, the things we're allowed to do with our businesses and our life and society and so forth is changing on an hourly basis. So I think it's incumbent upon businesses to be students of what are the resources out there. And we're obviously, as an organization, businesses come to, have to be doubly so to make sure we get, and we're just, we've put a new portion of our website that just went live this morning, and had some communication go out to our 6,000 or 7,000 folks who are part of our, distribution list, to direct them there, which includes a whole bunch of resources. Some of it may be duplicate of others,
right,
of what they've put out there, but also some tools. Certainly Tom's great recommendations on, tips for businesses in this type of a time of what they can be doing. But more than just like, okay, here's a how-to plan, go do it yourself. I think what we have done over the years is we work with companies like yours one-on-one. So it's not like, good luck, here's a website, have fun, don't go out of business. It's like, let's have a conversation. What are you dealing with the most? What can we do to help? I feel like in some cases we're dealing with a fewer number of businesses that are what we call traded sector or scalable startups, that your customer base is not just here, it's,
nationally. Yep.
So those folks are going to feel the effects of this as well. But in the immediate term, you're dealing with a lot of retail, restaurant, and that type of thing. When this is, you shut your business down and you have no revenues, or you only got revenues from takeout, or maybe you don't even do takeout yet. You're trying to figure out how to, change that model. That's a different story. And I feel like we want to talk to those folks as well. We may have less to offer, but we want this to be very much, person to person. To degree we can meet in person, but we'll meet people however we need to try to provide at least some plan forward on things that they can, actions that they can take.
Well, and sometimes it's just a matter of having a conversation. When you're in a business, especially like towards that CEO level, sometimes it gets lonely up there and you feel like you have nobody to talk to. And I think Matt and I have kind of pulled together and said, hey, what creative things can you do versus, maybe somebody that doesn't own a business that might have great ideas, but it's different when you're in the driver's seat, how that impacts it. So yeah, I think right now it's a unique time. Tom, what do you think as far as resources available for Business Oregon is kind of the number one that you would encourage businesses to check out right now?
One thing is, definitely connect with your partners. So EDCO, the Small Business Development Center, any local resources, make sure that you're connecting with your Chamber of Commerce. EDCO just put out this morning a great resource. If you're not on it, go to their website. It directly deals with this. They have a lot of links for both state and local. Get that pegged on your computer and look at it daily because it changes. So right now it's just, what are the resources out there? A lot of it is just survival. And I liken it to, Afton, you mentioned that, you're a small business owner, Matt, same thing. I love what you two are doing. This is what we're talking about. It's coming together, working together, and sharing ideas, sharing best practices. It's go back to when you first started your company and remember how that first year was an absolute, survival. And you worried about cash inflow, you worried about cash outflow, you worried about, taking care of customers. Go back to that, go back to the basics. And I think for the next couple of months, it's going to be survival. And one thing is don't panic. Do things what you're doing right now. Work together, collaborate, use your resources. And the main thing is this is a marathon. This isn't a sprint. And keep your powder dry, stay alive. I would also say at the same time, be realistic. If you're starting to run out of runway and you're not sure that you're going to survive, it may be a time to shut the business down. We don't like talking about that. We don't like to hear about that. We want to see the success stories, but at the same time, I always say you want to fight for another day. And so make sure that you're not doing things that are going to be hurting yourself long-term. The biggest thing my concern is right now is we're entering into this with one of the highest business debt loads and actually even personal debt loads that we've seen. And now we're looking at adding more debt to it. That can be very dangerous. And so just make sure that you know what your debt loads are, what you can afford to pay, and then make some very difficult decisions. And it's going to be a time that decisions made today are going to have impacts down the road.
Yeah. Would you have anything to add to that, Roger? I was going to put the website up that you guys just put up earlier today too, actually.
Yeah. Thanks for putting that up. It is kind of like a link that you're going to find mostly through that communication. We'll find a way for folks to be able to get that easier. It's kind of a special part of the website we've developed, but make it easier to access via multiple points. But I'd also just encourage folks, as Tom said, to not panic. This may feel like panic time, but not panicking could be making some of those tough business decisions. But understanding that and back to your point as well. Afton, is that you kind
of I would
swallow your pride a little bit and ask for some help.
Yep.
Tom, you had something?
Yeah, I would piggyback on what Roger was saying there. And Afton, you're asking about the resources. This is the page right here I'd really stay attuned for, because as resources come available, as information comes available, we will definitely be sharing that with EDCO, and they have been very quick on responding to it and putting that information on there. And so I would just say, mark this page, keep it up, and we will continue to feed Roger and Elise the information so that they can put it on here to stay timely.
Well, and there will be more information coming out. There'll be more resources. I really feel like, because the economy, once you do this work that we do, you realize just quite frankly how complex it is.
Mm-hmm.
It is not a simple organism.
No.
And just all the different sectors and how they're interrelated. And so I think you're going to see things come out for restaurants, for eating and drinking establishments, for hotels, for a broad variety of things where are being impacted in a big way. On how do you let's get a list up there for who's doing takeout and so forth. So I think you're going to see a lot of resources start to come to the table. We're hopeful too, and what we'll be including in ours is just policy recommendations, because there's a lot of this is really coming down for public in the interest of public safety, which we understand, from federal or state level, but there's no corresponding relief. So it's like, okay, you got everything else to deal with, and we're just going to impose this, which, by the way, may have taken away all your customers.
Yeah.
But you still got to pay your taxes. You got to pay them on time, and thank you very much. So, and by the way, your employees may have delays in actually getting unemployment benefits because our system is set up thus and such. So, you got to change those things in times like this if you're going to throw down edicts like that, which we understand. We don't necessarily disagree with, but. We've talked about this in our office too. There's obvious health. This is a health, reaction to a major health scare, and something that's going to be with us probably for longer than most people expect.
Mm-hmm.
But it will end, eventually. And at the same time, there's a consequence to poverty. There's a consequence to people, losing income that is also as health risks.
Do you think that an area like Central Oregon will be more or less impacted than maybe some areas that aren't quite as expensive to live in?
That's an issue. I think obviously if, there's a cutoff of income and you've got, kind of a high base to what you have to make for your living, that creates more of a problem. It'll be interesting to see what happens in that. I mean, we're seeing some financial institutions say, okay, we'll take a holiday on, coming after you if your mortgage is not, up to date and so forth. So, the thing I guess we really have going for us is that, we've done this over a longer period of time. We've bootstrapped. We haven't got a lot of assistance from state or federal folks. In fact, I might argue on the state side, we've had a lack of assistance when it comes to just kind of business climate, but we figured it out. And I think this area, we will figure it out, and we'll figure it out faster than most. We'll rebound from this thing as strong or stronger than we were before, because people have to be smart and creative about how they have looked at their businesses and figured out how to, reduce costs while still, making sure they have customers.
But one of the best parts about Central Oregon is the fact that the business community, anybody that owns a business that's listening that hasn't had an opportunity to, participate in EDCO's Pub Talks or any chamber events, like this community, once you start getting into that circle, is so strong. And I think the proof is kind of in the pudding when you look at how many businesses there are in Central Oregon. So I think we're all going to kind of be in this together. And again, like me personally, I feel like the anxiety is kind of, subsiding, and it's not about, what can I do in my business to survive, but what can I give back? And again, Matt and I putting this together, let's bring together resources and say, hey, there's people want to help every day.
Says a lot about you. All good.
I like to talk. My dad always jokes. He's like, you ended up in the perfect scenario for you. You always like to talk, and here we are.
Well, leave it to startups to come up with a creative idea to try to help other businesses while they themselves are struggling with the same conditions. And hats off to you.
You gotta. Like I said, Matt and I have spent enough time together last week. We're like, we're in it now. So let's just drink and talk to people.
Yeah, we normally have a beverage of the adult type, but we didn't want to,
encourage you.
We know that you probably have to go back to work, so
on duty hours.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Hey, Tom, on your side, you again, this list, I'll put a link to it, but is there anything else that you wanted to make sure that's on this list from creative solutions or that sort of thing that, that small business owners or, any business owner could learn from?
One thing I would really want to point out, and both of you and Afton are really showcasing that, and is having gone through this, I liken this to 9/11, where things were going along great, and all of a sudden, the morning you wake up and life changed. And that's kind of how we faced here. And so during that process, and a couple other times, having been in business for the length of time I've been in, I see three types of response to it. One is run and hide. The other one is stick my head in the sand because I don't want to deal with it. I don't want to admit it. And the third one is face it head on and go into the challenge. And what I found over the years is those that face it head on and take on the challenges are much more likely to survive than the other two. And I think what you're doing here with these podcasts, coming together, sharing, I think that is so key important, because what we find out is, and Afton nailed it on the head, one thing I love about Central Oregon is the entrepreneurial spirit here. People are willing to help, they're willing to share, they want to see people succeed. And I think just keeping that in mind is, if you're scared, everybody around you is scared. If you're scared, your employees are scared. And so, yes, it is a scary time, but I would say the worst thing that can happen right now is to panic. Take inventory of where you are, be realistic about it, seek other advice, seek your EDCO partners, work with your CPA, work with your support groups, talk to people who are in your industry. Maybe they have some ideas, maybe they came up with stuff. And having gone through this and having a team before, it was amazing that when I went out to them and was actually allowed them and transparent with them, we rallied together, and the employees actually came up with some of the best solutions. And so don't overlook maybe one of your most valuable resources, because it really worries me right now, the number of employees that are being laid off. Now, I understand that may have to be a course and you need to do that to survive. At the same time, understand that they also could be one of your best resources to help you through this. So it's a balance. A lot of this stuff is balancing. A lot of it is going to be being reactive, or I shouldn't say don't be reactive, be proactive. Know where you're going, know what your plan is, stick to it, and then also include other people like it. I mean, I love what you're doing, Matt and Afton. This is what we need more of right here, and I think you two should be lauded for doing this.
Well, we definitely didn't start out thinking that we were going to do this, and then we just figured it out. We're like, oh, well, let's just go do it.
Yeah,
so
our timeline was not built for this, but here we are.
Yeah, thanks, Tom. Afton and I talked the other day. It's like, her sales sort of just kind of disappeared because everybody doesn't know what's going on. And well, of course,
it goes back to being innovative. Right now is a time to really be creative, innovative, and find new ways of doing things. And what I'll say is we're going to come out of this stronger than we went into it, I think, but it's going to be different. We are going to come out of it differently than we went into it. And I think that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that's
be creative.
The best part about being an entrepreneur and a business owner is that you've already scrapped. That's how you built your business. And like you said, Tom, go back to that. Go back to year one and say, okay, I made it work this far. I, scrape by on pennies. And I think that's the best way to do it, and take care of the people that take care of you.
Yeah. And it's, I think the worst thing to do is to stress out, to panic about it. I think what it is be realistic about it, take assessment of where you are, make the decision. But the big thing is make decisions. And the worst thing you can do is not make a decision, because by not making a decision, you're making a decision. And so, lead, get out there in front, lead, and be the example that you're needing others to be.
All right, we're going to wrap up here pretty soon, but I wanted to start with Roger. As members of the business community, and we want to come together as business owners, what would you say to us as business owners, and how can we sort of come together in the best way possible to support even people like you? This is not about us coming to you for a handout. It's like, how as business people can we help support you so you're getting the information that you need to help support us? I mean, it's a definite win-win for both of us.
What resources does EDCO need from other business owners that would be helpful?
Well, I think first and foremost, we need to know what challenges you're dealing with. Our focus in our work, and we're pretty transparent about this, is really working with more traded sector companies like yours, who are producing products or shipping services out. It could be software, more and more professional services these days. But we need to know the challenges they're dealing with in order, I think, to react better, and tell policymakers too. Hey, you've done this. Do this to help lessen the impact of that particular policy. And so I think that communication right now, things are pretty quiet.
What's the best way for, if I wanted to reach out to you guys and maybe just give you a little glimpse of what's going on in my world, how I'm being impacted, what's the best way for us to do that?
Any point of entry. So any one of our team members, feel free to call me, but not me exclusively.
Please.
Yeah. I mean, we've got, if you're not getting a hold of somebody directly, they'll get back to you quickly. Everybody's on board. We've not had any layoffs. In fact, we're hiring. And so, it's all hands on deck.
I have some free time.
No, you're doing this. You can't have free time.
That's right.
Yeah.
Anybody wants to sponsor this?
Yeah, exactly.
I think that's a great point as well. Matt's going to be helping us with trying to roll out Pub Talk. And I think some people will say, well, no, why are you doing a Pub Talk when maybe the whole thing should be about, triage instead of talking about our normal format, which is having early stage companies pitch and keynote talk about their failures along the way and what they learned from it. We're going to still do that next week, except we're not going to do it at McMenamins because McMenamins is closed. We'd love to do it there and support them, but we'd probably be breaking a few laws in doing so. So Matt's going to help us get that out in a different way, live, like this podcast, and hopefully people will listen in as a community.
Yeah.
Is this going to be free?
It will be.
Awesome. So anybody that's ever wanted to check out Pub Talk, this is going to be an awesome opportunity to do that.
Yeah. So first free pub talk,
Yay.
going virtual with Hand in Hand's help.
What time is that? Do you guys have a date and time?
Yeah, it typically happens on the third Thursday of the month. So I think I've got that in my head. 28th of
I think it's next Thursday, isn't it?
28th of March. Is that what that
No,
is?
hold
Yes.
on.
24th. So yeah, it's next
third Thursday.
Yeah,
That's what you said, Roger.
Yep.
So next Thursday.
For pub talk.
Yeah, at our typical kind of social hour and so forth, people network. I don't know how you do that exactly. Matt will have to tell me more on how that works, on a virtual platform. But
Yeah.
You grab a pint and you tune in.
Well, we're gonna actually, Afton, I saw some people actually doing this on Facebook, so we might try this. So yeah,
Right on.
before then. So
I'm not going to try to, get me going on events, and I'll get it wrong every time. So I'll let Matt and Aaron, Riley, and others figure this out. So that typically our program starts at 6. I'm not sure exactly the timing on this, but it's in that using that 5:30 to 7:30 time frame.
Yeah.
So relax. I'm actually really excited about this. Matt and I were talking about it the other day off camera, and I said it'd be really cool if EDCO, published and did pub talk again. It's a great way to interact and introduce this to people that have never been able to go.
So this is a series about creativity. I think this is a great example where Matt really was in communication with our team and with Aaron Riley, who heads up all of our events, and said, "Hey, have you thought about doing something maybe like this, or can we creatively, still have an event? Not, because I think that's the thing we're trying not to do is the the soup du jour last week was cancel, like cancel everything.
Right. Yeah.
And so let's see if we cannot cancel. Try to keep some of that,
Normality.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so, it was his expressing like, well, what about this? What, kind of what ifs to someone else to say, oh, well, let's talk about it. And I think that's exactly, if we have businesses doing that interaction, as Tom also talked about, then you never know what can come out of that good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Hey, Tom, same question for you. What's so for us as business owners, how can we best support you to help us? I mean, we want to make this a mutual relationship. So what do you need on your front from us at this point in time?
Things that you're already doing. Podcasts like this, getting the word out, staying connected. And the main thing is as you find out information, don't be afraid to share it. Sometimes I think that we get information and then we kind of hold on to it because, well, we assume that the other person has it. I'd rather see over communication right now. If it's too much information, I've got a delete key on my computer. I can always just delete it. At the same time, my biggest concern on this is that there's a lot of business owners and other people out there that don't know where the resources are. They're scared, they're worried. And I think events like this, I think working with your EDCO directors, getting the information to us is huge, because it's not just Bend that's feeling this. It's the entire United States. And as importantly, it's Oregon. And so if we can get this information out to others, it all comes together as one big community, and we can help the entire state.
Love it.
Yeah.
I do. So off topic, I think it's a light, airy way to kind of end this. Tom, what are you doing for fun right now? What are you doing at home after, you turn your phone off and are done with that scene for the night?
Well, I'll share with you, Afton, that the last couple of days that has not been the case. It's been fast and furious. It's been crazy. There's a lot of people that have been reaching out and asking for help. I think what you thought I was going to say is I was out on the boat fishing, which I'm looking forward to. Right now, though, we really are here to try to help businesses, do things like this, do outreach, stay in contact with individuals. And so for me right now, this time is spent trying to help others out. And so for right now, I just want to make sure that we're here as a resource, that we can help in any way possible. And summer will be here soon enough, and you'll find me out in the middle of the lake, relaxing and enjoying myself.
What about you? Are you finding any downtime, Roger?
I'm kind of on Tom's boat. The days are getting extended, obviously, already, but Yeah, I don't know. My family is kind of rallied around Netflix, so
that's kind of what I thought the go-to is going to be. Like, what series are you binge watching right now?
yeah. My daughter, who hadn't picked it up, I think she was probably the last high schooler who hadn't watched Stranger Things, but she's been doing a little bit of binge watching on that. But yeah, I don't know. There's always seems like there's some kind of mental distraction there for sure.
Yeah, I would agree with that. It's hard to focus when you're, again, triage, I think, is like the best term right now in business. Cool.
Yeah. Hey, Tom, thanks for joining us. We appreciate it very much, sir.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Get back to work, and thank you for the service to the community.
Would you be willing, Tom, maybe to do a touch base next week with us?
I'm sorry, say that again, Afton.
I
You
said
broke up.
next week, would you be willing to maybe do a touch base with us?
Absolutely, I would. Yeah, and I just, once again, Matt, Afton, thank you for the job you're doing. Roger, great seeing you. Wish I could see you in the office, but being quarantined right now, I've got to stay at home. Not because I'm sick. We've just been asked to stay at home. And I have a feeling that I'll see you out on the lake this summer with you and the kids in the boat. So looking forward to it.
Hopefully not waving 20 feet apart.
Exactly. Yeah. Thanks, Roger.
Well,
Appreciate
it's an 18-foot boat, so if we have to stay 20 feet apart,
Oh, there you go.
bring your swim
Tail to tail.
Get a life jacket, right?
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. And
Thank you, everybody. It was great. Great job.
Thank you, Tom. Have a
Thanks,
great
Tom.
afternoon.
You too. Take care.
Roger, thank you.
Thanks, guys,
Yeah.
very much for what you're doing.
And like, basically, if there's anything we can do, let us know. I mean, we'll try to get communication out. And for those people that may have missed this, it is going to be archived, obviously, but I'm also going to upload it to EDCO's YouTube channel, and this will also be available on EDCO's YouTube channel. So thank you very much for joining us, and we'll be back in a little bit talking about your accounting and what you can do right now for creative. Well, not necessarily. We don't want to call it creative accounting, I guess.
Can you
but
get creative with accounting?
I don't necessarily want to call it
the
creative
good accountants
accounting.
probably don't see it that way.
but what you should be doing from an accounting standpoint. So
Awesome.
again, thanks all for joining
Thanks,
us.
Roger.
We'll be back
Thank
in a
you.
little bit.